All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we welcome you back to the 500 Mile Podcast. As always, with me, Michael Skinner. I am Justin Kolb. And Michael, we had some racing out in Atlanta. Some of the races a little bit better than others, but nonetheless, I got some stuff to talk about from the ATL when we get into it.
Yeah. Overall, I don't think it was the weekend that NASCAR was ultimately expecting. I think that the truck race and the Xfinity race kind of went about how I would say probably 70% of the fan base thought it would go when they decided to turn Atlanta into a super speedway at the moment. But super surprised by the Cup race. I thought they drove a lot more respectfully than they do at other super speedways, and we didn't wad up 25 cars during a green white checkered. So overall, I think the Cup race was pretty good. I think that goes down as a successful day. But yeah, it's rough for Xfinity and Truck there.
Indeed. Well, let's get into some of the stuff that went on Saturday. I mean, there's not really a whole bunch to talk about in terms of the actual racing that went down, mainly because there wasn't a lot of actual racing. But one of the big stories of the Saturday race, obviously, was Josh Williams in that 92, taking a stand, parking it on the French straightaway. You know, as the week has gone on, obviously we know the penalty now. He'll be sitting out for Coda, but you know, a lot of people had been talking about that situation, and I think both of you and I tend to agree on sort of I guess, the outcome of that. Just the race itself wasn't, the cleanest overall, and I think that NASCAR was a little bit frustrated with everything that was going on, and when Josh kind of went out there and let the tape fly on the track, I think a lot of people agree that that was just kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for NASCAR, and that's kind of he was just the unfortunate victim, I guess, if you will, in that. Obviously, yes, Bear Bond did come off the car. Did they intend for that to happen? No. I would argue that he probably shouldn't have been parked for that. Maybe held a lap or two at the most. But obviously, I want to get your opinion on that, Michael. But I think the main thing with it was that there was just too much stuff going on, and NASCAR decided that was enough for. Because I don't think we were even out of stage one, or maybe it just gone into stage two. It was very early in the race.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is, man, it was cold. I mean, you could see how cold
Yeah.
it was on Sunday. Looking at the pit box, with RCR there, you could see how cold it was. So, as Josh and the guys from DVC were, kind of explaining, like it was cold. Like Bear Bond takes a lot of heat to stick. That's what makes it so sticky and so good for like for race cars, for your airplanes, things that it's used for. Um, and it was super cold. It was cold here in Florida. I can only imagine up north it was probably 10, 15 degrees colder. So, uh, and I don't know. I think they should have given him a better shot to install the piece of tape. Maybe like giving him one more shot, because it's not like they went green knowing that was on the racetrack and then threw the caution. So I think NASCAR made a big deal out of it, and I think Josh made a big deal about being told to park it. So I think both responses were kind of directed towards each other, and I think the outcome that came out of it, I think it's good. I think it's good that Josh stood up for himself. I think it's okay to say, hey, this is what I did. I'm sticking to it. I accept the penalty, but I stand by what I did. Uh, because there's going to come a time where there's going to be a situation similar to this, and NASCAR may make a different decision, thinking back to this incident. So I think good things will come out of it. It's unfortunate that he was suspended, but thankfully he doesn't have to pay a fine that he can't afford.
Yeah, and I mean already some good stuff going after, or with that the shirt that he made. I think both you and I already ordered that, so that'll be worn whenever it comes in. But all proceeds to that going towards his hospital tour. No, he does a lot of tours for hospitals pretty much around the United States, as I understand it. So. At least some good stuff came out of that. Out of an unfortunate situation, I'm pretty happy that they did not add any additional penalties or whatnot to that. Just a simple one race suspension for Coda. no monetary fines, no points fines, anything like that. So, while not a perfect situation, obviously they could have laid the hammer down a little bit harder. But I am definitely glad that they didn't with that. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Michael.
No, I think it was I think it was warranted. So
At the
I
end of the
can't really
day, yeah,
disagree on it. Yeah, I mean it. NASCAR can't have people doing that every time they disagree, but I think it was something that needed to be done because I think all of us can agree that at some point in time, during every race, NASCAR makes a decision that we all kind of scratch our head on. And it seems like now a lot of the drivers, I mean, just take the whole Denny Hamlin thing, right? Guy opened his mouth, guy gets fined $50,000 and points get taken away for being honest and telling it how it is. So a lot of the times we don't get what drivers' true reactions are because of a situation like Denny Hamlin, right? They're going to get fined. They're going to do this or do that. You know, I'm pretty sure that 85% of the field does not like the next gen car, but they cannot say it because they'll get fined, right?
yeah,
So I think this is a step in the right directions. I think that the drivers need to be able to speak their mind because just because NASCAR is the governing body, it's not their ruler. Right. The drivers still need to be able to control some aspect and put the decision in NASCAR's hand to either make a better decision the next time or make a change. And I think this is a good start. I think if more drivers, younger drivers, take notice of this, I mean, don't go to the massive extreme that Josh went to, but like I said, I think the biggest thing is that he still comes on and still says, "Hey, I still stand by my decision." And I think that to me tells me a lot about Josh and tells you about who he is. But I think that NASCAR needs somebody that is willing to make those decisions and then not regret them.
for sure. And just because you had mentioned it, I don't really want to go too deep into the Denny Hamlin penalties and stuff like that. But the one question, I guess that I want to pose to you just real quick, because Tony Stewart had made a comment. I don't even know where, but it was a comment that he had made that was documented by Jerry Jordan of Kicking the Tires. His quote was regarding, announcing what he did on a podcast and then getting penalized for it. Tony's thoughts were, and I want to get your opinion on this: let the officials that are officiating the race, if they didn't like the way it ended, they should have handled it there. Anything after everybody left, it's done. And I kind of agree with that. I don't think that, you know, he should have been penalized for comments that he made on a podcast a day after, because if there was something that NASCAR didn't like about that whole situation, you would have think that they would have just settled it there. But obviously, it's very well documented that because he opened his mouth, that's where the penalty came from. So I kind of want to get your opinion on that. Is that how would you how would you like to see them go about that? Would you like it to be, if it's at the track and they don't say anything about it, is a done deal? Do you like the fact that, or I guess, do you have an opinion on the fact that, he opened his mouth on a podcast and then got penalized for it afterwards? What's your take on that?
Oh man. Yeah, we we can't be penalizing race car drivers after a race for an action. Um, I think it's different in the William Byron situation because William said that he, crashed him on purpose at the racetrack, right? The race had just finished. They were still on premises.
Yep.
I think
And
anything
he even
after
said
that, I
something over
think,
the radio.
yeah, I think once you leave, I think once the day's over, once the race is over, you can't start going off of comments that are made. Especially, I mean, I know his podcast is actions detrimental, but that what to me that's just not a detrimental thing. I mean, I think again going back to DBC, like they put it the best. Look at all the shit that Ross has done starting 1 year ago this weekend at Coda, right? He wrecked Almendinger and the 48 car to win the race, right?
Hmm.
How is that any different than what Denny did? Other than saying, "Oh yeah, I wrecked him on purpose."
Only difference is he admitted it.
Exactly. So you can't, especially to that person, right? So now you're giving these kids that come in. that are already aggressive, that are already for fighting for every inch possible. You are now giving them an excuse, knowing that, oh, this person can't wreck me back, because if it gets found out that it was done on purpose, they're going to get fined, or there's going to be some type of a penalty. It's just one, it's a ridiculous penalty. Two, it's a ridiculous penalty for the guy that's been. How many times has Ross wrecked him? Like, seriously? It comes to a point to where, like, he has to be able to say, hey, yeah, enough's enough. We always kind of look back at the early 2000s, late 90s as the pinnacle of NASCAR, right? I don't think that any of them, including somebody like Martin, would have let Ross Chastain's nonsense go on for as long as it has, because I'm pretty sure he would have done it once, would have tried to have done it a second time, and then would have been firewall deep into anywhere. Um, so I think in that situation, you have to let the drivers police themselves, whether it's on purpose or not. That's just my opinion. Because if you're gonna cheer and put promos up for stuff to where it's wrecking for the lead, it's wrecking for whatever reason, and you're gonna make it a selling point for your races, you can't penalize a guy.
Yeah. That's that's probably the biggest issue I had, was the fact that, I mean, he pretty much said he did it, but they settled it there on pit road. Like, it was, they agreed to start fresh from there on. So that's kind of where I have that issue, where, they had finally settled it, put it in a good place, and then NASCAR decided that they wanted to finally step in. So that's kind of where my issue comes in. But that's all last week at this point. He's going to be appealing that. He explained why on his podcast, and he did. Obviously, the penalties with Hendrick and Colleague, they'll be appealing it as well. There's no date set for that yet, so just keep your ear to the ground on that. Let's get into Sunday here. I guess it was a clean race, which was refreshing for me. You had that one caution early with Bubba spinning, and then with Chastain and Harvick, which there really wasn't any contact, just a weird air thing it looked like. So other than that, it was a relatively clean race, which was pretty refreshing from the two races we got on Saturday, Michael.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I really can't complain how the race went on Sunday. It sucks that the track is so, you know, it's so small, like it's not very wide. So side by side racing is tough, and especially with as slick as the racetrack got. I mean, I know the Cup cars were hooked up a lot more than the Xfinity or even the trucks. They were still a handful. You could still see. I mean, Harvick lost it off of Ross Chastain, and Ross didn't even hit him. So the cars were already a handful to drive. You could see that they really didn't start getting real racy until like the last 5 or 6 laps of the stage break, and even the race didn't get that way into the last couple of laps. And it kind of seemed like where you came out. I mean, I think the perfect example is look at the 8 car. They short pit, or they pitted, didn't get enough fuel in it, ran second, battled for first there that whole middle of the second stage, then went on pit road, had a longer fill, came out I think like 18th, and he got back up to 10th, and that was kind of it. Um, you know, it just kind of seemed like wherever you kind of settled out once the race got single file for that long little bit is kind of where you ran.
Yeah. That's pretty accurate to what Denny was saying, where you race the first 2-3 laps on a restart, and then
Yeah.
it's pretty much just kind of settle in from there. So, do want to bring up pit road. Obviously we had a green flag pit stop there in stage 2. No real issues with that. I mean, other than the fact that if you speed or anything like that, you're essentially down 2 laps, and there were some pretty good points brought up on that and the dangers that can present. Where if there is a caution at any point during that run, and most of the field is stuck 2 down, granted you get that one wave around to get your lap back, but I mean that that can be race changing if there is a caution in the middle of a green flag stop, because then you have half the field 1 lap down, and that's I don't know what
Yeah,
type of race
that's
you have from.
ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know what type of race you
I
have after that.
I don't. And I don't know how to make. Again, I think the guys on DBC, and I think even did Denny talk about it a little bit. I can't say that it's not a bad idea. Like I can't say that I disagree with NASCAR's decision on it because I mean we see accidents at a 2.5 mile racetrack, not a mile and a half, let alone to where the braking zone is going to be hundreds of feet shorter.
Mhm.
Um, but man, I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine that when we go back in I think July, um, and the track is a little bit. I mean, it's going to get even hotter, and the track's going to lose even more grip. So I, I can't imagine that when we go back that you're going to see a lot of them stop early on in the cycle. I just can't. I think you benefit. I mean, if you manage even without the draft, if you manage to go 5 or 6 more laps than the rest of the field, um, and a caution comes out, how are they going to make back up 2 laps? You know, at one point in time, I think the whole field, but I think like one car was 2 laps down. I mean, if a caution comes out right there, yeah, they get um, the wave around to go back to 1 lap, but then you're just getting one car back on every
Yep.
caution. I mean, that could be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, but I don't know a better idea. I don't know how you fix it. Yeah, I don't. I didn't really realize how slow it was going to be until like you kind of see that 99% of the field was was 2 laps down.
That would probably be the only change that I'd like to see them try is maybe that entrance road off 3, maybe don't make that pit road speed. Obviously, they'll have to police themselves on that to not go into the grass and stuff like that, but that's probably the only thing that I can really think of. Other than that, I mean, that's probably as good as they can get for a mile and a half on pit entrance. But I mean, the other issue you have with that is when people are coming off pit road, that is also, they're pretty much merging in the spot where you come off pit road and the people that are trying to enter pit road. So obviously, we didn't have any issues then, but that could create some issues there going forward as well. Obviously, this was only the first run at it. Could see some more stuff in the summer race, which will be under the lights. So I don't know. There could be some
Yes.
changes with that, but um, yeah, I don't know. That could just the dangers that can present is going to be pretty interesting moving
I
forward
will
here.
I will say that I think having it be a night race is a mistake. I know it's better for the fans because it's going to be like stupid hot, but I think it's actually going to hurt the racing. I think it needs to be a day race.
Well, I mean, I'm going to be interested to see how the night race looks there. I do kind of agree with you that it's going to turn the racing probably more into what we saw this time. But I am kind of interested to see that place under the lights. Obviously, we saw it a little bit for the Xfinity race, but um, just have to see how it changes things. Moving on to the second place finisher, or I guess have to question if he actually did finish second. I do want to give Brad some kudos though, because I didn't really. He's been the only driver I've seen in this next gen car that has been really able to efficiently run both lanes, where he's been able to cover the top and the bottom. A lot of people try it, but they really just aren't very, I guess, proficient in it, for lack of a better term. They'll try, but sometimes they'll cut too close and obviously they'll end up losing out. Brad did a relatively good job pretty much all race trying to hold that. Obviously Joey got him there twice at the end, but I mean, he's just really good, Joey is. I mean, there's nothing you can really do about that. I could see the moves that Brad was making, and I could only really think that the reason he didn't fully commit to that is because he didn't want to wreck himself and the whole field, because there was a few times there where it got really close, but he obviously gave it up at the end there. That, the move that he made at the end there to ultimately lose the race probably was the smarter thing to do rather than fully commit to that block, because I think if he
Yeah,
does, that's a wreck.
yeah, that's one of those. Yeah, I think that's one of those wrecking the whole field.
Yeah.
That I do think that I know they were giving TJ a lot of crap on DVC, but I agree. I mean, I don't think you block. I don't think that you block that run. I mean, I think the best case scenario that comes out of the block like that is what happened to the seven and the 9 car last year. Um, you know, but again, I mean, we don't. Man, we just don't want to see wreck race cars. I mean, I know, a lot of the new fans, have kind of been led into enjoying the fact that race cars crash and all that stuff. And that's a lot of stuff that NASCAR puts out are the big crashes and things. But we really don't need to wreck any more race cars. One, they're way too expensive. If we're already talking about cost cutting measures, and then really two, it's so hard to get parts. We need to try to limit that as much as possible. So I think he made a smart decision. I think he did the best thing for his team. I mean, if you look at where the six car is in points from last year to this year, I mean, it's crazy. And a lot of that goes to making smart decisions like that. He's the only driver to lead a lap in every single race, regardless of how he led that lap. The performance has definitely increased at at Roush there, but I think a lot of it has to do with just being a little bit smarter behind the wheel. And I think that was one of those decisions where Brad kind of made it and was like, I could block this run and I could win the race, but I'm also probably going to destroy half the field and my own race car. So yeah, I mean, good move by Joey. Got the right push. I mean, hell of a push from what was that, Corey? Um, Probably one of the best pushes we've seen all day.
Yep. And then the push by Bell down the back to seal the deal there
That
for
was
him.
okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we thought Brad finished second by the NASCAR's ruling he did, but there was a picture going around on Twitter showing that that may not be the actual case. So um, I guess nothing will happen about that, but that is pretty funny how that can happen because there is a very clear picture. I don't have a link to it, but there was a very clear picture of Brad finishing third to Christopher Bell there at the end. So
Yeah, I
kind
don't.
of have to wonder if that's going to happen at all the rest of the season.
Okay, and I told you this before we started, but my one thing about that, right, is how is it that we haven't heard anything or a reasoning, right? Even if I think that reasoning is bullshit, at least come out and give me that bullshit rather than we're just gonna ignore this picture that's flying around. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's so blatant. Like maybe there's a different, maybe Brad crossed it at before, Bell at like a certain part, right? But there's got to be some type of an explanation for that call because, kind of like, I don't remember who said it, but it's like, what if that was for like the race win, right? They'd make a bigger deal about it. I mean, second could win you a championship.
Very true.
Second could be the difference between, getting those 15 bonus points for the regular season champion or not. Um, yeah, I don't know. That's a really bad error. It's just one
Yeah.
of those NASCAR things. Like we have one of these at least every couple of weeks where it's just you scratch your head and you're like, I don't know how to defend a NASCAR on this because you just can't. It's just so blatant.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah, I don't know. That's rough.
I mean, at the very least, I hope this is something that they at least acknowledge, internally, and maybe don't let happen moving forward. But I don't know. I at the very least, I hope they saw that. Obviously, there's nothing you can really do about it now. But maybe don't let that happen moving forward. So, um,
Just so strange. Just so strange.
yeah, very
Like
strange.
it'd be different if it was like super close, but like it wasn't super close.
No, no, it was pretty cut and dry there. Um, Before we move into Auto Club, what the fuck? Coda this weekend.
Daydreaming over there.
Yeah, I know. I don't know where that came from. One thing I don't know if everybody knows about that. They made some story or headlines in the news about it, but Auto Club Speedway will not be Auto Club Speedway whenever we come back to that. I don't know if everybody saw that.
Very strange.
They lost the naming rights. Well, I mean, I'm sure that's one reason why they probably decided to just repave the track or get rid of the track this year was because they lost the naming rights. And I kind of saw that coming when they lost the Auto Club 400 naming rights. I'm sure Auto Club just didn't want to renew that and started going to other things for last year and this year. But yeah, I mean, I had tried to go onto their website before it was even announced, and I saw it redirected to NASCAR.com, and they gave this whole FAQ about that track. But I mean, you can just go to autoclubspeedway.com and it'll do the same for you. I'll digress on that. But before we move into COTA this week, do want to talk about some testing that happened over there in North Wilkesboro. That track is a little unrecognizable right now from where we started with it. They repaved the entirety of the infield, which is great. It looks very weird compared to the outside, the actual racing surface. But I mean, prefer them not touch that yet. And it sounds like the drivers are in agreement with that. Sounded like there was some good tire fall off, some good roughness on that track, and overall, the three guys that were there had very promising things to say. Chris Buescher was there, Austin Dillon was there, and Tyler Reddick did a test there, and also the trucks were there. I know they had Zane Smith, and I believe it was Carson Hosfar, um, and I think Corey Heim was also there for Toyota. And it sounds like all good things to say over there. So, Michael, this is sounding more and more promising as we get closer to the All Star race here.
Yeah, I watched some of the little clips that they had, and looks pretty racy. Especially, I think once they get a lot of that dust off and they get some more running. I think the biggest benefit to the weekend is that that weekend is fully packed. With racing on that surface, that surface is only going to get better with a little bit of heat put into it. It's only going to get a little more slicker. It's going to control the tire wear a little bit to where, like, we want that fall off, but we don't want tires to blow out either. So once we get a lot of rubber down on that racetrack, it'll kind of even it out with fall off versus blowing right fronts or something. But yeah, no, super excited. I kind of wish that the Xfinity cars were going to be there because I think that they would put on an absolutely ridiculous show. Um, Again, still kind of concerned with the Cup car. Like I kind of told you earlier, just because it is such a wider tire uh, than what the Xfinity and the Truck Series run on, that it just doesn't have as much fall off. And we're still dealing with a lot of aero issues. I didn't I it looks like they're going relatively fast. Compared to what I thought they'd be going. So um, yeah, I think truck's going to be really good. Super excited about the late model stuff at the beginning, um, or the midweek there. I think on Wednesday. I think the truck race will be really good. I still have reservations about the Cup race just because, this new aero package is so different. I think a good tell for how North Wilkesboro is going to go is going to be Richmond. I think if Richmond puts on a really good show, then I think we have high hopes for how North Wilkesboro will race. If it puts on a bad show, I think it'll be it'll help because it's going to be an all-star race, so there's not going to be so much saving tires, and the green flag runs won't be so long. But I think we'll see a similar product as we do at Richmond. So fingers crossed. But the one thing that I do hope is that I think this is a great idea. I hope that this is something that, just because it doesn't put on the best race ever for a first attempt, I hope that it's not something that we just throw away. Kind of like we did Rockingham. We gave Rockingham a shot back with the trucks. It didn't put on the super best racing. It was spread out. But really good race car drivers won at Rockingham in the trucks there. So I hope that doesn't happen to where it didn't turn out that side by side finish every week, that it wasn't worth continuing on. So I hope that it is a good race. I hope that it keeps going back, even if it isn't even if it isn't a barn burner. But yeah, super excited, man. It's cool to see those old racetracks come back. It's cool to see some of the nostalgia still there. Seeing all those faded Winston signs and things like that takes you back a little bit.
Indeed, and I kind of feel like, at least for this first race back, I feel like obviously we want to see good racing, but I feel like that's not going to be really on the forefront of people's minds. I think this is going to be more about the event, actually going back, reviving everything. Haven't had cars technically on tracks in your last 27 years, so I have a feeling this first one is just going to be about getting back there, reliving it all. Obviously, again, hope for a great race, but I feel like that may be as you said, I hope they come back for the second one. Obviously, they put so much work into this track. I don't think they're just going to abandon it again. But hope for the best with that place. I hope everybody has a great time. Based on what I see, it looks like a lot of the old patina. That track is still going to be there. So I hope people go in there, just kind of appreciate that all. And I know that traffic may be a little bit of an issue at that place, just based off location, from what I heard about the Cars Tour race they had there. So I hope people are a little bit understanding of that. But I think it's just going to be a great event overall for everybody who attends there. And you had mentioned the late model race there. New entry into that race we learned this morning. KHI coming back. Kevin Harvick going to be running the 62 late model stock there over there. So that's going to be fun to see. I have a feeling that Rodney's probably going to be the crew chief on that. I know that I think he built that car that he's going to be racing there. So should be a lot of fun to see old KH in that race.
Yeah, and speaking of that, he also made a decision going to be bringing back the 29 car, for the All Star Reach, which I think is really cool to pay back to his homage on how he started. Started under kind of a rough light, but really became known as the driver of the 29 and still is a driver of the 29 because nobody's taken it since then. I think it's really cool that RCR let Kevin and Stuart Haas do that along with Bush, Ford, all those partners uh, that made that happen. I think that more collaboration in the sport is good. So yeah, that's super cool. Kind of didn't want it to be how it's been the last couple of years when they do these throwbacks, or they kind of just do whatever makes the sponsor happy. It kind of looks like the throwback, but has a different color. It's not the right number and all that stuff. So super cool to get it done. And really just looking forward to the weekend. I think you said, I think it's going to be a cool event. Um, and I hope that it is a successful event and that it's going to happen, next year.
For sure. And yeah, it was a really cool deal. I know he announced that on Race Hub, and it was cool listening to him kind of talk about all that. I know he called Richard Childress personally on that with the 29, and all was good with that. So, really cool deal all around. Going to have the old school Bush light, uh, I guess, logo on there. So accurate with the time. It's going to be a throwback to his first win, obviously. So, going to be a really cool deal all around. So, with that, when we talk a little bit of Coda this week, Michael, we have the question posed, and I'll let you go first on it. Who do you think the highest of the road course ringers are going to be? Because we're going to have a lot of them. Jensen Button in the 15. Obviously, we know Kimi Räikkönen in the 91. Um, who's some of the others? Jordan Taylor in the 9. And I don't know if there's. I'm sure I'm missing someone. But um, yeah, who do you think is going to be the highest finisher out of them all?
Uh, I don't know. The reason I really wanted to pose this question, because, I mean, dude, they're all really good. Connor
Yeah,
Daly is actually going to be there with
that's
the
right.
TMT car, but I'll be surprised if it actually makes it more than a lap. I'll be honest. Which sucks for Connor Daly, because I think Connor Daly deserves a shot at a decent
Well,
ride like the rest of these guys.
they're going to have practice this time, so maybe he'll be fine, you know?
The day of practice, that car might not make it the practice. That 15 minutes might be too much for the motor. It might just blow up.
It's going to fall apart.
Yeah. Um, I don't know, man. I mean, just to put it in reference, man, these guys are really good. Um, you have two Formula One champions, and you have a multi-time Rolex 24 winner, and I think Jordan Taylor's won at Le Mans as well. Um, these guys are really good race car drivers, and road courses are their specialty. And I think they made a good. I think Denny made a good point. These things are a lot closer to a GT3 car than they are a stock car at this point. I don't know. Honestly, I think it'll probably be Jordan Taylor, and I think that's a person that I'm kind of hoping for it to be. Uh, it's really a toss up between my pick between Jordan and Kimmy, just because Kimmy has the experience of running the Cup race last year, and I think he was in the top 10 before he got wrecked. But I think I'm going to go with Jordan just because I'm the most excited for that. I think this is a long time coming. I think him and his brother are some of the most underrated, uh, road course guys here in the United States. They're multi-time, IMSA champions. They're multi-time Rolex 24 winners. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that Jordan's won at Le Mans with Corvette, and I think that they don't get enough credit for the accomplishments and the feat they have. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Jordan. And I mean, it kind of sucks that he doesn't have regular crew chief there. I think that does limit him a little bit because I think if Allen was on the box, I think he'd even have a better shot. But I don't know, man. That working on that garage 56, having a little bit of cup car experience on how the weight works and how it transfers, we might be in for a surprise with that 9 car.
Hmm. Yeah, those are my two. So I'll go the opposite on that. I will go Kimmy because obviously he had that start at Watkins Glen, showed a lot of promise there. Didn't get to finish it off, but going to a track where he has some good experience at Coda. Obviously the car probably not so much, but had a little bit of experience there at Watkins Glen, and I'm sure the practice is definitely going to help on Friday for him. So I think that Kimmy's going to shock the world a little bit as well.
Yeah.
So
Now, mind you, again, I mean, Jensen Button's in the same boat as Jordan. They just finished, I think, a 24-hour test at
that's true.
Sebring in the Garage 56. So He understands how the weight works. He is, yeah. I mean, dude's a Formula One champion. Dude's a multi-time race winner. Let me tell you, if it rains for whatever reason, my money is on Jenson Button. That dude in the rain is ridiculous. Probably one of the best in Formula One in the rain behind maybe like probably the top three are probably Senna, Hamilton, and Schumacher in the rain. Jensen's got to be right up there. So yeah, I mean, and I'm so happy they're in the field. I think it's super cool. I think we need to see more of it. I'd love to see Jordan in a Xfinity car at JRM on a road course and at an oval. I think that'd be cool. But yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm glad that Kimmy comes. That's wanting to come back, which means he had fun. And I think there was a press release that said this is going to be a multi-time show for the 91 car this year. And I think after that statement, I think Justin Marks said that the 91 is going to be Kimi Räikkönen's ride until he doesn't want it anymore. So I think we'll see Kimi at almost every road course this year, and I think we'll see Jenson Button here and at Indy if I remember correctly. So yeah, I'm super excited, man. I mean, regardless of how they finish, I think it's just cool to have him there, have him in the garage. But yeah, that's cool.
Indeed. All right, well, let's get into our race picks here. Michael, I'll let you go first this week since I've been kind of hogging that.
Uh I'm gonna go KB for the truck race.
All right. Probably should have put that down in the notes.
I mean, I do want to say that before you make your pick. I mean, there is some studs in here. We do have Bowman the Showman, um, Zane Smith, the road course winner from last year. Parker Kligerman's in there as well. A bunch of pretty good guys there as well on road courses. So I don't think I don't think it'll be easy.
Indeed. Well, I'm going to go Zane Smith. That's kind of an easy pick for me. He's just kind of it seems like the best in the series at the moment, so that's where my money's at. Xfinity, I don't know if I actually sent you the.
I got it. I got it.
All right. Well, I'll let you go first here. I don't know if we have any really studs in the field other than AJ Allmendinger in the 10 this week.
Well, I know that you're probably gonna pick AJ. Um, so I'm gonna let you have that one, and I'm gonna go with a surprise pick.
Well, actually,
Right,
there's two people I could have picked here. So who are you picking?
man. I listen. Every time I rode with him last year in the truck series, he finally won me one. But I got to ride with my man PK. I think he's coming off. He had a terrible Daytona. Kind of made himself look like a a hole. Ran really good at California. Just didn't. I don't think finished where they ran. But I think he's starting to pick up steam, starting to run better. That 48 car looked really fast this weekend. Probably should have won the race had it not been for Daniel Hemrick. But I'm gonna go with Parker Kligerman. I think eventually lightning is going to strike, and I think my man has some good luck.
Good stuff. Well, I'm gonna pull a wild card here, mainly because I didn't know
Ty
he was in the
Gibbs.
race. Yep, I didn't know he was in the race until I saw a picture on Instagram of him in the 19. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I mean, hey, Cole Custer's going to be good too. I think he has a couple of road course wins for Stuart Haas
Yeah, we'll
in the
see.
Xfinity series.
He's been the least
He
performing Stuart
sucked.
Haas car there so far.
How? How?
He should
I
have
think
won
the
Auto Club, but
listen.
I'll say the cut tire there.
I think the 41 Cup car is where careers go to die.
All
Like
right, listen. I
seriously.
I feel like we need to give Priest a little bit of time. Obviously, this week
Listen,
wasn't great because he was down a cylinder for the entirety of the race, but
listen. My man is the Ty Dillon of Ford. Right. If it
yeah,
will go wrong, it goes wrong to the 41 car. Like, I don't
yeah.
know who they have build those race cars, but they need to be fired. There's no way. I don't care. You put two different drivers in, it runs shitty. You have multiple different crew chiefs. Somewhere along the line, something is wrong. Even Alex Bowman wins a race every once in a while and runs kind of okay.
He backs into them actually.
But regardless, he's in position. My
I
man was
gotcha.
17 laps down at a super speedway race because he blew. Oh, he was down a cylinder. Like, bro, that's brutal. That's
Yeah,
brutal. Oh,
yeah. All right. Well, who are you picking in the Cup race here?
All right, so I am going to surprise you.
Oh boy.
Okay,
Okay.
so I look at the guys that finished really well last year. Right, look at the Ross Chastains, really good car. I look at the Austin Cindrics, really good qualifying car, but didn't have the long run speed last year. Okay, we got AJ full time. Okay, he was originally going to be my pick, but I'm going to go out of left field here. And I think I'm going to go with Ty Gibbs. As much as that pains my inner soul, the dude is a really, really good road course racer. And he's beaten all of the best road course guys on this list.
Yeah, that's a fair point
I
and a
mean,
pretty good pick. Can't
he
argue with you.
outdo at his first career win at Daytona, he outdueled Cindric. Okay, he outdueled uh AJ at Watkins Glen. He outdueled Kyle Larson at Road America. I I I don't know. The guy's just a really good road racer, so I think
Yeah,
that's going to be my dark horse pick.
can't argue with that. And since you left him wide open, I will go AJ Allmendinger. So not in the Xfinity race, but in the Cup race, I definitely I hope for the best out of him.
Uh, One thing I will say, I mean, like, I'm excited for these guys to get an opportunity to run a Cup car um, here this weekend. Remember, no stage breaks, right? We still have stages, but just no
It's
stage
true.
breaks.
Yeah, that's gonna change this
I
race completely.
I do have concerns. I do have concerns about it just because of how strung out Road America got when it was a long green flag run. Uh, but I mean, I think there's. I mean, I honestly think there's like 10 people on this list just off of speed from last year that can really win this race. So I think it's gonna really determine on who's really really good on the long run. I think after 10 laps, I think the cream's gonna rise to the crop there. I doubt unless we do some NASCAR stuff, we're gonna get a late race yellow. I don't. How many laps is this race, Justin? Does it say?
This is going to be have to dig a little bit for it, I guess.
You
Man,
think
it
it'd be like right on the top
yeah,
page?
I would figure it'd be staring you straight in the face. That's interesting. Well, I
Um, yeah, that is very strange. I mean, I'm assuming it's more. It's got to be more than 50 laps. I think. I would guess. Does it say it on here? 68 laps. Um, so the stages are at 15:30, and then the race will end at 68. To be honest with you, this race could really go green the whole way. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I think this weekend's gonna be interesting. I hate to say it, but I think the fans that didn't want any cautions are gonna kind of pay for it this weekend and are probably gonna end up complaining about how spread out and how boring it was.
yeah.
The one thing that I will say that is super difficult on Fox this weekend. I know I give them a lot of shit, but I think the hardest thing for them this weekend is going to be being able to see all the good racing. Um, it's kind of like Road America last year. We saw a lot of the 9 and a lot of the 8, but there was a ton of good racing back in the field that were just 35 seconds behind, first and second. So I think Fox has their work cut out for them on Sunday. Especially if it gets a long green flag round and gets strung out, you're gonna have to keep track of strategies. You're gonna have to be able to show good racing, in and throughout the field, not just the leaders. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope we get a good show from the start to the end there, and I hope Fox does a really good job of covering it, especially with Kurt and Gunther Steiner in the booth. Um, yeah, so yeah, but I just have a bad feeling that I think we're gonna get what we wanted, and we're gonna see 68 green flag laps, and it's gonna be a long race.
Well, like you said, a lot of people asked for this, so if it ends up being that way, all you can say is you
We
got what
asked
you wanted.
we asked for it.
Yeah. So, but I mean, hopefully the the strategies and everything come into play and kind of shakes that race up a little bit from uh, you know, it, as you said, it could be a little boring. So hopefully that kind of brings some excitement to the table, if you will. So, um, I think that's all we got. Michael, you got anything else we wanna cover here before we sign off here?
We F1 and IndyCar are both off this weekend, but it is the first race of the MotoGP season on Sunday. So, those of you who are big fans of MotoGP, it will be Sunday, the 26th, and also Supercross on Saturday. Super good championship battle there. Um, I think like the top three are within 10 points. So it's been a really good season there, especially with the new Super Motocross schedule. Going to be exciting for the rest of the year. The one thing that I will say, kind of go back to last week in a little bit, Justin, I don't know if you watched any of the highlights or watched any of the Mobile One 12 Hours of Sebring.
I did not.
I would suggest going up and looking at the finish
Oh,
of
I saw the wreck
the
that took
12-hour
everybody out.
race.
Yeah.
And for my final thing that I'm going to leave you guys with before we sign off is for all those iRacers that feel bad, and we wreck, fake race cars online and we get yelled at and, people get upset. Imagine how bad that the top three car feels in the last 19 minutes of a 12-hour race to wreck in the most ridiculous manner I think I've ever seen. It almost looked like something you see on iRacing. So don't feel bad. It happens to professionals, and but yeah, man, that's kind of why we don't race on a piece of paper, right?
Yep. And I don't know if it was that wreck necessarily, but I did see some videos of some fans trying to take some parts off some LMP cars. So definitely don't do that.
Yeah, that
Because
was that was that was after that accident, which that's man,
yeah, don't
those
do
are just
that.
like those are just the people, man. Like you just scratch your head sometimes, like why are you trying to ruin a good thing? But
Yeah,
yeah, it happens everywhere.
indeed. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for us here. Hope everybody enjoys Coda this weekend. Michael, why don't you close us out here?
Yes. As always, thank you guys so much for listening and watching. We apologize about last weekend, had a little bit of a family issue going on, but we will be back same time next week. So have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week. Hope you guys get to enjoy all three series at Coda this weekend. Hopefully the cup race is really good. We always know who Justin and I are secretly rooting for, as you can tell by his hat. But no, I think it's going to be good. Always love going to the road courses. They're so much fun. I think it gives different drivers an opportunities to stand out. But as always, my name is Michael. His name is Justin, and we'll catch you guys next Wednesday.